Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. You're probably wondering what the heck this video is doing on this channel, based on the title, especially if you're somebody who subscribes and follows me already. If you're somebody who stumbled on this by looking for carnivore videos, then this is not going to be strange to you at all. But I need to preface this, how this all began. It actually began in November of 2022 on a return visit to my doctor's office to have him sign off on my biometric screening that I would submit to my health insurance or my company that I work for. If we hit certain plateaus and we do certain things, we get a rebate on our health insurance every year. We can save up to like $500 if we hit a certain amount of points. So I had a blood draw in, I think it was July of 2022. Doc was like, everything is okay. Sent me home. Okay. I went back to him in November because I have to enroll in November. You have to sign this so I can submit it. When he looked at it, he noticed my A1C. Now, nothing against my doctor. He's long in the tooth. He's in his late 70s. He had a heart attack just this past in April of 2023. And he may have overlooked it. And he noticed in November of 2022, on top of being 285 pounds, which is my highest recorded weight ever, your A1C is 5.4. You're almost a diabetic. Okay. What have I been telling you? Gave me the spiel. I get it. Yeah, I get it. And I did. I got it, but I never did anything about it. So, knowing that there were some diabetics in my family, and knowing a few outside of the family who have had a real bad go of things, put the fear of God in me. Like, there's no way I'm taking insulin. Recalling some of the issues that my grandmother had, and being tested, I had to test her sugar every day or take a shot of insulin. She lived into her 90s, which is great, but the last, say, 10 years weren't that great. And I just said to myself, well, I'm not going out like that. So, had the fear instilled in me. Otherwise, all the other numbers were great. Cholesterol has always been good. Things like that have always been fine. But this was the light bulb went on. Started. I made an appointment. I said, listen, instead of going a year for a blood panel, let me come back in March. He's like, you can do this with diet and whatever. Okay, I got it, but didn't tell me, well, you should look into a keto diet or look into a carb restriction diet, some sort of restriction diet, or look into carnivore, because he's old. He probably doesn't know any of that. Old school dude, fine. So come home and I start hitting the web, like, diabetic diet, things like that, which ultimately led me to multiple things. One, plant-based, which I had already tried plant-based about 5 or 6 years ago. I lost weight. I felt like garbage. Just never felt good, never felt energized, and I was unhappy. I'm going to be perfectly honest. There was absolutely no joy in eating that way. I never felt full. I never felt satiated. So I had already been down that path, and I said, well, I ain't going down that again. There's no way. So I found keto. I found carnivore. I found the lion diet. So I said, well, you know what? An elimination can't be bad, especially reading up on keto, and that's what I started with. November of 2022, after Thanksgiving, I started keto, or a keto-ish plan, and went through March of 2023 until my blood draw came up. My blood draw came back. My A1C was down to 5.1. My triglycerides went way down. Ultimately, my overall cholesterol, total cholesterol, went up like 5 points, but I was targeted on A1C. It went down to 5.1, and I had also been lost 20 pounds. I was down to 265 pounds. The doc said, hey, you're losing weight. Your A1C is coming down. Whatever it is that you're doing, keep doing it. Fine. I went through the spring, and I made an executive decision. Well, you know what? To me, it was like unlocking something. Like, these are the keys that I need to drive with and be successful. I went off the plan, basically, not full crazy off the plan, over the summer, because barbecue's 4th of July. My birth, like, there's 4 birthdays in my family that are in July. There's a couple of big, celebrations in July. There's also a family reunion at the end of the summer in August. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna stick to some of it as best I can. But now I know I'm gonna have, on those days, on those celebrations, I'm probably gonna have a beer or three or 10, whatever. Um, I might have a dessert. I tried to monitor myself and stay within some limits and not go off the deep end. And said to myself, while you're doing that and you're researching more of this carnivore diet, you might have to put some ducks in a row before you jump into that boat. And that was my plan. I made that plan at the beginning of the summer. It was probably like June of 2022 or June of 2023. And said to myself, your next, and I made a blood panel appointment from when I went in March for November. So another 8 months, I would get another blood panel. So I made the deal with myself, just try and be okay, be good through the summer. And then 30 days before your blood panel, you're going to start being a complete carnivore. You're going to go to a complete carnivore plan because you're going to have time to research it. You're going to watch testimony from folks, the doctors that are doing it, and giving people information. And I already knew I would be sort of successful because I love meat, any kind of meat. It doesn't really matter to me. Other than like lamb. Lamb is not on my list. Goat is probably not on my list either. But for the most part, chicken, most types of shellfish, and certain types of regular fish, swimmy fish are okay for me. Turkey is okay, although I don't indulge much in turkey. I love eggs, so I was kind of and bacon, so I was kind of in the clear there. Like, okay, I can do that. There's no doubt. So October rolled around. My blood panel was supposed to be like November 16th, so I started October 16th of 2023 as a full-blown carnivore. I gained 7 pounds over the summer, so I went from 264 or 265. I weighed in at 271 on October 16th. Today is January 25th of 2024, and I tipped the scale this morning at an even 250. So in 90 days, I've shed another 21 pounds. So I had my blood panel in November. A1C was down to 4.9, which is totally, now, again, got the keys to the vehicle that's going to get me there. So I went through these 90 days as a full-blown carnivore and had a lot of things that just, there were some good days. There were some okay days. There were some bad days at the beginning. Overall, I would say there were maybe 3 to 4 days where it just felt kind of off. Your body's getting adjusted. And I knew from other folks' testimony that that could happen. I was also aware that I may gain some weight. Unfortunately, I think I had a spike of maybe 2 pounds somewhere in the first 20 days. Like I had gone down to like, say, 252 pounds. Or not 252. Let's say I started like 200. I think it was 262 pounds, and then went back to 264. And I was like, well, some folks said they do that. Some folks said that they have gained like 10 or 12 pounds. So I'm like, all right, 2 pounds. I'm not going to sneeze at that. It's only 2 pounds. I still think I've got the keys to the vehicle that's going to take me somewhere, on this journey and get me ultimately to the finish. The weight came back off. It was no big deal. And probably after, I would say the first 21 days is when I really started to notice the mental things that changed, about the way you feel about food, the way you feel about how you're, like the intermittent fasting kind of happened on its own. I was trying to make sure I was trying to stay on a 16 hours off and an 8-hour window to eat. And at the beginning, I was conscious of it. Like I was like, all right, well, I got another hour before I can eat. And then I would automatically set a timer, really, and eat that first meal at 16 hours exactly. And then if I needed to eat twice, I ate twice. Sometimes I only ate once. So the time clock, I guess you could say, kind of started happening on a natural regulation. Like my body would say, it's time to eat. And I would go, oh yeah, I haven't eaten yet. So, which I thought was amazing. Like I'd never really, even intentionally, sometimes you slip up, and this was just kind of happening on its own. I was like, okay, we're just going to make sure, keep an eye on this because maybe this changes. And I had sprinkled in naturally a lot of OMAD. There were days where I only ate once. And I was trying to record. I actually took some footage. I wasn't sure I was going to get through 90 days. It wasn't real. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to wait till let me get through 90 days. And then, you know what? Maybe I'll start documenting it. Let me give the initial, the initial account of what happened to me in 90 days. And then I think I'll feel better of actually recording things as they happen and giving little updates. So like that first 21 days or so, that's when I noticed a lot of the mental in regards to food, the relationship with food, what I should eat wasn't really what it was, what my body was telling me to eat. I went through a period of about 10 days, nothing but red meat. That was it. And then it stopped tasting good. It stopped having that same Pavlov's dog effect. Like, I'm going to eat tonight and I'm going to have a ribeye, and I'd be drooling already. Like, I can't wait. And there were a couple of times sprinkled in there. I was like, I don't really feel like red meat today. So luckily for me, I again had my ducks in a row. I kind of put this little plan together over the summer. Like, well, what happens if I don't want to eat 80-20 ground beef that day, or a meatloaf, or can't afford to have ribeye every day either. So I'm like, well, you like chicken, so I picked up chicken, and I've eaten chicken on occasion. I've had chicken legs with the skin, as advertised. Eat the skin. It's loaded with collagen. It's good for your skin. Eating the fat, eating the butter, eating the bacon, eating the eggs, and have really, I want to say, after that 30-day mark, things really started getting simpler. Happening naturally, just listening to the cues that your body gives you. And this is the testimony of a lot of folks. A lot of doctors are telling us that too. Try and be in the moment. Try and listen to because we're not used to that. Coming from that other type of diet, you're just not used to that. We're always cranky, right? You're always cranky because you're always hungry, and you're like, but geez, I just had a muffin 3 hours ago. Why am I hungry again? Because the muffin doesn't satiate you. There's no nutrient density in it that satisfies your body. And your body's like, hey, are you going to put something good in my system for a change? Or are you just going to give me more of the same old crap where I'm going to be hungry again? And when we understand that, that makes a difference too when you're trying to make the switch over to doing, even if you're just doing a partial elimination diet. You're still going to have those cravings because you're still eating that type of food. It might be a little bit more difficult for you to get that craving out of your system. I think that's the way it would have worked for me, for sure, because I was still doing keto. There were days when, like, I ate enough protein. I wasn't really eating the fat content that I am now, but I would get, like, still eating 3 times a day, kicking off the insulin pump and the hormones, and, not really the way to go for me. And what I was setting out to accomplish, it may have set me back a little bit. Ultimately, though, it was still positive, and positive enough for me to say, you know what, I think I need to go full-blown carnivore at some point. And it got me through to where I am now. And so after 90 days, I'm down 21 pounds more. A total weight loss of 35 pounds since November of 2022, with the spike of 7 pounds over the summer of 2023, losing that 7 that I had already lost. So I kind of put a monkey wrench in my own program. So I could be 7 pounds less than I am today, which, listen, I'm not going to hang myself for it. The important part is that I made the plan while I was off of keto during the summer. It was like, listen, this carnivore thing might be the ticket to really open your eyes and shed some light on a lot of other things. And by other things, I mean inflammation. I have a mild rotator cuff injury from playing disc golf. I took up the sport at age 50. I played a crazy amount. The overuse and force that you put on that joint and that structure while you're playing the game ultimately caused me to have a partial tear, a very mild tear. I went for PT. It worked. I started playing again. I had some soreness and tenderness, and it would bother me. I wouldn't be like, even to do things like hang my clothes up in a closet on a hanger. I couldn't do that. I would have to like try and do it this way. You can't get up that high, so I would have to use my left arm. And during this keto thing, it started to get a little better. I also had some tendonitis in my left elbow and some sort of itis in my left knee. It was kind of like, it felt like a sunburn on the outside. And it was like, this is just probably because of the weight and being older. So, you fall into that trap. And ultimately, on the partial elimination, doing the keto, it started to feel better. All of them started to feel better. And now, after 90 days of being a full-blown carnivore, this is still, because there's a structural issue there, this still gives me a little bit of a twinge every now and then, but I don't have a constant irritation or a burning or a pressure. The elbow tendonitis is gone. The knee-itis, whatever that was, gone. So who knows what other inflammations I may have had. My brain's, an organ, who knows? But ultimately, the big deal is that those inflammations cleared up after eliminating the processed food and the sugar completely. So the side effect to me of trying to lower my A1C is the weight loss. And now discovering that because there are people that talk about their inflammation issues have disappeared. Mine have too. And I don't want to say I'm amazed by it. What I'm confused about is, why isn't this common knowledge? I mean, it's for those of us that do the homework and are going down the rabbit holes, it's becoming common knowledge for us. But why aren't, clinicians and practitioners of medicine kind of not even subscribing it or prescribing it to somebody, but saying, hey, I want you to look at this as a way of a lifestyle of eating. If you think it suits you, try it. At least give somebody a leg up. Okay? Don't continue to push the standard, well, your cholesterol is 250, it's time for you to take a statin. Like, well, this is just the way we're all going to progress. We're all going to have high cholesterol and we're all going to take statins. We're all going to have high A1Cs. And, let's not pay attention to the epidemic of type 2 juvenile diabetes in this country. Let's just keep giving people insulin, making them fatter and sicker. I think those are the big things mentally that I took away while I was going through this 90 days, because I really started to study it more. I really started to dig. And some of it made me angry, especially finding out that there is an epidemic of juvenile type 2 diabetes in America. And it's not because, a lot of folks say it's because the kids are lazy. It's not because the kids are lazy. It's because, well, they might be a little lazy because they're too busy doing this or looking at their phone. Fine. Ultimately, it's what they are eating. Some of it might be genetics. There's a whole different, a whole set of circumstances that could be. But to have the kind of numbers we're seeing, it's not all genetic. It's not all because they're lazy. And I'm not saying it's the parents' fault either. But it would be nice if somebody said something, or at least put an ad campaign out there. Back in the day, or back in my day, I'm a Gen Xer, 54 years old. In the maybe the mid 80s, there used to be a campaign for eggs, and the slogan was the incredible edible egg. It was a little jingly thing. They used to sing it. And then eggs were no longer good for you. So, you know what we'll start doing? You can eat the white part of the egg, but don't eat the yolk. That's the worst part. So we'll start putting yolk or egg whites in a carton along with 50 other chemicals, and we'll sell it to you for $6, and you won't have to worry about your cholesterol. In the mid 90s, maybe to the late 90s, there was a campaign for beef, and the slogan was, beef, it's what's for dinner. Well, that's gone. So why these flip-flops? Here's why. Somebody's making money when the campaigns are out there. and somebody's making money when the reverse is said. Well, now red meat is bad for you because it causes cancer and diabetes. BS. So these are the things I'm like learning about, and I've already tested this, if you want to call it that. I've been the guinea pig for myself. Black and white in a lab result, I've seen the numbers decline eating this way. So I'm no longer headed for that meetup with type 2. Okay. The side effect of doing this to me, I didn't do it for the weight loss. That's the side effect to me of that. The side effect is mental clarity. The side effect is inflammation reduction, where I now have free range of motion with, some injury that I had. I'm not going to PT. I actually started playing disc golf again with no harmful effects, no soreness the day after, no pain, no nothing. Is it a miracle? No. Is it something that should be commonly spread? I believe so. I think people are seeing it. So now the things that I'm in regards to diet that I'm processing. I was never a fruit person. I've survived 54 years with fruit maybe being something that I ate a handful of times a year, and mostly in the summer. Watermelon. That was my big fruit, endeavor. Once in a while, a banana. And if I had a go-to, like I felt like I need to eat a piece of fruit, I ate an apple. I liked oranges, I liked grapefruit, but not to the extent of where I ever craved it. Like I could say there were times in my life I want an apple, a nice big, freezing, ice cold, juicy apple. But over the course of 54 years, it was never a staple of my diet. I can't say that fruit helped me survive. So I don't think fruit, that changes for me. Vegetables, on the other hand, I like my vegetables. There's certain things I love. I love green beans. I love broccoli. And any kind of leafy green. I love spinach and like leafy green lettuce, iceberg lettuce, romaine lettuce, blah, blah, blah. Baby spinach. I like it. Now, subscribing to the, and this is nothing against Dr. Chafee, but the mantra of, plants are trying to kill you. Maybe, yeah, I can probably subscribe a little bit to that if you're eating them every day. He chooses not to eat them. That's great. And so do several other, maybe thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands don't subscribe to it and won't eat vegetables either. Can you survive without them? Absolutely. And will you be fed and nutrient, efficient? Yeah. I don't believe that giving them up completely is really necessary. Now, how much you should eat or what kind of toxicity would cause some sort of chronic thing or just, an issue, let's say, or maybe even it's just discomfort, indigestion, some sort of, intestinal kind of thing, which they've proven. There's people that totally cut plants from their diet, go full-blown carnivore of some sort, or at least keto-ish diet, but remove the plant-based stuff, and those issues that they have reverse or at least get better, manageable. They're not taking medication anymore. So that's the one plane that's in the air in regards to what I should eat or what can I eat, outside of the obvious, the carnivore-ish stuff, or just the carnivore stuff, not carnivore-ish. It is carnivore stuff. So that's the one plane I have in the air in regards to my diet. I've already taken dairy out of my coffee once in a great while now. If I do put creamer in my coffee, it is heavy cream only. I don't use half and half. I do not use milk, because some of those things that come across like, well, why are humans drinking cow milk? We should be, mother's milk. Your mother's milk, not the cow's mother's milk. So we don't need it to survive. It's not essential. Does it taste good? Yeah, it tastes good. Reese's peanut butter cups taste good too, but are they essential for your existence? No. So starting to think things like that, like if I eat that, does it make me better? No. So I probably won't eat it. At least through this goal. And the ultimate goal for me right now, with like that has the flag, to capture the flag, is I've already got the A1C where I want it. I think it's going to continue to get better. Now it's watching the scale, and the goal for that, for a vanity or aesthetic thing. And I think I'll feel better and have more energy and maybe get more active too. Maybe I'll go back to the gym like a crazy person. I don't know. But I think I put a number, and that number is 190 pounds, which is only 60 pounds away. I've already lost 30 or 35. So that's the flag I have that I want to capture. And I would say if my weight loss continued now at 7 pounds a month, I'll be there before the end of the year for sure. Now, if I increase some exercise and things like that as I go through this, maybe it happens a little faster. But that's the flag that I want to capture right now. So, and just continue to read and watch channels and see people's testimony and see if there's something they can offer me, or hope maybe even get in touch with some people who are doing this, through the carnivore community. Maybe if for anything to bounce some ideas off of, maybe you can be each other's cheerleader, kind of like, when you go to AA, let's just say, when you have a sponsor for an addiction, and you think you're going off the rails, or you're having a moment and you need to talk to somebody. It's good to talk to somebody who's in the same boat or has shared some of the same experience, so they can give you and you'll receive the information as somebody who understands what you're going through. So I think that's important. So if you don't have support in your family or your friends, maybe turning to the carnivore community here, whether it's on YouTube or some other social media or whatever the case may be, contact and reach out to some of these folks. Maybe they'd be willing to talk to you. I know I would. So that's part of getting your ducks in a row too, knowing whether or not you're going to have support doing this, if you're going to have to kickstart this by yourself. I was fortunate, and honestly, my mother kind of took over like a modified version of carnivore, and over the last year, she's lost 40 pounds. And, there's another antidote. I mean, it's hers. It's not mine. It's just I'm reporting on it and saying that she kind of did it too on a modified basis. So it is possible. And she just had her blood work done last week. She's the poster child for perfect, other than an iron deficiency, which she's had and continues to take supplements and do things. But everything, and the doctor, and this is a new doctor for her, and he was like, you don't take any medication? She's like, no. Which gives me a little more support, like, hey, my mom doesn't take any medication. My father had never taken any medication before he passed on. And, maybe I got some of that. And I think I may, because just on an immune system level, listen through the whole, the P word or C word, whichever you want to call it, not so much as a sniffle, a cough, nothing. And, there's something to be said for that. And even prior to that, I mean, the last illness, like when I was really knocked out, I was probably in my early 30s, and I had the flu. So, knock on wood, those things are pretty solid for me. I'm going to continue to believe that my immune system is good, and that I have these good DNA strands and genetics, that maybe I can stave off any kind of major illness, and I may be able to give myself a boost by now eating properly and having what Dr. Berry calls the proper human diet. So I'm going to monitor, weight now. I'm going to go another 90 days as a full-blown carnivore and check in with some ideas. Hey, I think the fun thing for me would be trying to come up with like different kinds of recipes and things for just making things a little bit more lively. I'm very fortunate. I could eat the same meal every single day until my body tells me this is no good anymore. You got to switch it up. So I'm fortunate. Some folks need variety every single day. They can't eat 3 days in a row of, meatloaf, or 3 days in a row of chuck steak or ribeye or, bacon and eggs. And I consider myself fortunate, and I feel very badly for those that need to, that they just can't get over that. This is boring kind of thing. So I'm going to continue to monitor, maybe come up with something. I think I will at some point. But really pay attention to how freeing this has been, how much more relaxed, and the way I react to some of life's little curveballs, some of the energy spikes, because it's not always every day that I'm totally on. I'm definitely more vibrant and aware and moving and doing things, but some days it's the energy level, it even blows me away through the roof. Like starting out, waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, going to a flea market or a yard sale or an estate sale, and then going here, going there, coming home and tearing something apart in the garage, and just going, and then realizing, well, geez, it's 5 o'clock. What happened to the day? And not feeling tired and burnt out, and just wanting to sit back with some ice cream and watch TV. Those days happen. They don't happen often, but I think it's a direct correlation to this way of eating now. So I'm just going to continue to pay attention to it. If you've already started this and you're here because you're already doing it and you're just looking for somebody else's anecdotes and testimonies on stuff, keep going. I'm going to keep going. If you're thinking about starting it, consult your doctor first. I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to promote this way. I'm just giving a testimony. Like, this is what happened to me while I've been doing this. I've reversed, an escalating A1C. I've reversed the scale. I'm feeling better. I've reversed some inflammation things. May not work for everybody. Everybody's different. So, for some folks, it's going to be sound and look very extreme. I don't feel that it is extreme now. I thought at the beginning it might be. That seems like that could be odd and counterproductive or counterintuitive. But I'm sold based on my own test. Having tests and blood labs and seeing things work. So if you want to try it, try it. Talk to your doctor. Make sure you got some support. Put some things in a row. Maybe start a basic elimination first. Count your carbs and sugar intake. For me, it was difficult to do the keto thing, to monitor things like that. This way, being carnivore, that's all gone. I don't measure anything. I don't count calories. I eat when I'm hungry. I have let things naturally take their course, and I'm listening to the way my body's responding, and it's been blissful, really, for like the last 30 days. Even prepping things, there's not a lot of prep. The most prep I do is when I make meatloaf. I stick it in my KitchenAid mixer. I crack 4 or 5 eggs in there, season it, let it whip up. It comes out like a nice smooth, it breaks up some of the gristle and fat tissue, so it's not real chunky. And that's the most prep I do. Everything else is, out of the freezer, defrost. It goes in the broiler now because it's wintertime. I'm not cooking outside on the grill, so I'm broiling my chuck steak and ribeyes. I got a cast iron pan I haven't tried yet, so that might be something I tackle. The prep work goes out the window. It's very simple to do. The cooking of the meal doesn't take long, especially if you like your red meat the way I do, just a little bit pink inside, maybe a little, you see a little, it's not really blood, but, the red coloring that comes out. It's really a joy. It's blissful to eat this way. Tonight I had bacon eggs for dinner. I had breakfast for dinner. That was even better. It was kind of like an bacon and egg scramble. Got some bacon, cooked it, chopped it all up and minced it, and then just whipped it in a pan with 5 eggs, scrambled it up. Done. Not long at all. 1 pan. So those are things you should think about if you're going to start. You're going to want to do the prep stuff. You're going to want to think about getting meals down the road. You may want to put a 90-day plan or a 60-day plan in your head and say, well, I'm going to start this on this day. I want to have a blood draw, make an appointment. Maybe you already have one scheduled. Maybe you can work toward that. There's a lot of things you might want to think about. The ultimate thing you should think about is you're going to feel better. I would say there's more folks that will feel better once they walk through the bad part, which really isn't that bad. It's just maybe a little discomfort. You might not feel very well, kind of flu-ish, kind of just like bleh, is the worst of it for me. And most folks that report on it, that's kind of the way they. So it's common. But make sure you got something together. Make sure maybe you need to have, maybe you've got kids and there's just too much hustle and bustle, and you might have to structure it a certain way. So it is doable. I would say without a doubt, if you're thinking about doing it, definitely put the time aside. Maybe try to plan some, if you can plan down the road a little bit, to have a plan, and just stick to it. Just, you owe it to yourself, especially if if you've gotten this far and maybe I'm the 30th video of somebody you've seen and it's in your head. You're doing yourself a disservice if you don't at least try a little bit of an elimination diet first and see how you react to it, especially if you're feeling ill, if you've got things now you've seen, like I did. I had a high A1C. I saw folks that really were reversing their type 2 diabetes too. They're getting off their medications, losing hundreds of pounds. And, well, why shouldn't I try it? I don't think that they were snake oil salesmen or just trying to pull the wool over your eyes or it's the next fad, because I don't feel, I've been on all those diets, the cabbage soup diet, this diet, the grapefruit diet, Pritikin diet. They're all unsustainable. This is the first one that I feel good, and I feel it can be sustained, because after I eat, I'm not hungry anymore. I am not having those cravings for anything. I'm really not. I might get hungry again, but it's not that, like, oh, I'm going to have, there's a bag of chips and salsa down in the cupboard. That kind of thing. That's different. That's an addiction kind of thing. Being hungry again legitimately, and knowing that, well, I still have some ribeye that was left over from dinner. I've got, a couple of hard-boiled eggs in the fridge that I could gnaw on if I still was a little hungry. Some folks are just eating half a stick of butter when they want a snack. Like, your body's just saying, I need a little bit more. That's what they're doing. So there's ways, and there's things to get over the hump, at least. But now, being over the hump, there's no other way I want to eat. There's just no other way I want to eat. It's too simple. There's too much joy involved in it after the fact. There's too much of a lowering of a stress level in your relation to the relationship you have with food. And for some, it might seem boring, and they're just never going to give it a try, and that's good too. Listen, you can do whatever. We can eat however we want. This is just now, a realization of what processed food and things that are, processed in a lab, in a factory, and thrown in a box that have a barcode with a shelf life longer than plutonium, will do to you over a long period of time. And I was headed there. I was going to be an example at some point. So that's it for now. Hopefully, if you've stumbled on this video because you just went down the rabbit hole, I hope it was informative. I don't expect you to subscribe to this channel, because this channel is not going to be about carnivore diet. It has never been. But I'm going to include it because it's something that I embarked on, and I think now I need to continue to update since I'm posting this, or will be posting this. So for those of you that subscribe to me and wondering, well, what is this all about? This is what it's all about. I mean, there have been others that are in the diecast community and some of the other, like the DIY and tool communities, that have reported about their health issues. And I thought it was, it makes me feel good that people open up that way and kind of let us in a little bit. So there was another reason for doing this, because there's people that have subscribed to me that I have relationships with and speak to that don't know about this, and now they will. And maybe they might be in a similar situation. Maybe there's something that they're going through health-wise that maybe this could help. So they're seeing somebody that they know, go through something and trying to make the best of it and try and fix it without jumping through some of the other hoops, one of them being medicated, things like that. So listen, if you want to subscribe. But if you don't want to subscribe and you're interested and you want to reach out, definitely reach out. Like I said, I have no No issues with, being a little bit of a cheerleader for somebody else and maybe bouncing an idea or two off of somebody who's going through this and wants to, or wants to. So that's all for now. I hope everybody's doing well. I will give you updates as they come in, and I will speak to you in the next video.